and the mind is more like the software. It's not a physical object that you can touch, but it's a type of coding, an understanding, a new language, a way of processing things. Something that's not about the physical materials, the plastics, the medical, the metals, my mouth is getting confused, cool. It's not about the physical materials, it's about the programming that went into it and how it's been taught to function. So a lot of people are dealing with that plastic and metal and fuse spots and things like that, how their hardware runs just their brain. And those of us who have access to our mind are sometimes able to, for instance, if someone can say something to you you've never heard of, you don't believe in, that you can't prove, but for some reason you have some sensation inside that maybe you should learn more about this. Maybe you can research it. Maybe you don't immediately write them off. Or maybe for some reason you can't understand, you just believe them. Something inside, like an instinct, is telling you, I don't have a reason, I don't have any proof that what they're saying is true, but I just know and I believe them. And especially if you've lived a life and you've had some moments to see these things come out to proof, where you don't have the evidence, but you believe it. And then later on, for some reason, you come across proof. Oh, I was right. That's your mind. That's your instinct. That's your spirit. That's what you're here to achieve. That's who God programmed you to be. That's opening the doorway into another thing, into another place. That's the difference between having your memory stored somewhere within the physical system, the brain, and having your memory stored somewhere in the cloud. I'm using that as a metaphor. I know the cloud is not an ethereal thing. Oh, where's the cloud? Oh, is it real? I get that. It's obviously not. I know it's another thing somewhere, but just as a basic metaphor, in the most basic way, and that's very basic, it's the difference between storing that information on your PC. So when you unplug your PC and your Wi-Fi goes out due to a storm or whatever issue you're having with the Wi-Fi hub, you still have your information on your physical brain, your PC, and having it somewhere in the cloud so that when your Wi-Fi connection goes out, you don't have it anymore. Except the beautiful thing with a spiritual connection to one's own mind is that the Wi-Fi doesn't go out. You're actually opening a door to a type of knowledge that's no longer contingent upon a physical interface like the brain or a computer or anything else. But there are going to be a lot of people out there who literally are combative against us when we say we're having a problem. They can't hear it because A, it's a language barrier. They are trying to translate what we've said into something else. And they've been programmed with that, and they have accepted it because it worked for them, and their brains accept that manner of communication very easily. So they are locked inside of it. And the reason why some people are locked inside of it is because they just haven't had anything challenge them out of it yet. They can do better, but they haven't yet. But the reason why a huge amount of people are trapped inside of that and can never hear us and will tell us, you're just normal, like that's an insult. It's an insult because they're writing us off saying, no, normal is not the term that describes my behavior, and I have learned that because the world has taught me. So you clarify that. They're like, nope, you're just making it up. I don't know if you just want attention or what, but it's annoying. You're just normal. This is a normal problem that everyone faces. The people who clinch down and cannot change, they cannot help themselves. And that is not something to tell them to their face. People get very angry when they're locked inside of their own sort of personal matrices. The people who don't have a connection with their mind get very angry when something challenges them to think outside of their programming. Because their brain is programmed with certain things. And they've accepted that, and it's all that they do. What ends up happening is if something challenges them outside of it, but they're not capable of going outside of it, that stresses them beyond their current capacity. And they will fight you in order to keep themselves trapped inside of that brain style knowledge that they have that's without a mind. They don't know it's happening. They very often believe that they're very well educated and they have a great deal of understanding and that they do have sympathy or empathy, but they have a deadened, small, cut-off version of it that can fit inside of a physical interface of a human brain. The version of it that you unlock when you connect spiritually with your mind, that's on another level. They're not there. They're probably doing the best with what they have, but for whatever reason, all they have is hardware, and they just don't have that software yet. Or maybe they won't have it at all on this side. I don't know why people are the way they are. I don't know why some of us can see, why I can see, and why some can't. I'm sure God has some purpose for it, but some of that is also not really of God, so I don't know. I'm sure we're all here to learn something and do something, but I don't have all of those answers. That punches a bit above my pay grade. That's something the Most High needs to know, and maybe will explain to me, because that is another thing I'm studying. But very importantly for us to know, when we are being written off by people, this is, in fact, I mentioned this and didn't realize it. Maybe this is the point of this video today. I just said I used to blame myself. I thought I'm not smart enough, or I don't get it yet. I don't understand their language well enough. When I was a child and it was like autistic and allistic, I would be like, I don't get it, these humans. Like, I'm not from here. I'm extraterrestrial. I don't get it. There's nothing human about me. I'm not an earthling. I used to be like these earthlings, I don't understand it. I don't know their language well enough to communicate, and I fought hard for this. A huge amount of my life's interest has been trying to learn how to communicate with them. When I discovered psychology, it made my life easier because I then learned how to encode, and I learned how to understand why they were behaving that way. And I finally got that even when they're telling me that their problems are about me, their problems are not about me. They're really not about me. I didn't, I don't act like them, basically. I don't reflect their issues. And for somebody to mistreat another being, even if they're mindless of the fact that they're doing it, that's not because of the other being. The way you treat other people is about you. End of story. We can get pushed, we can lose our tempers, we can be afraid, we can run away, we can go into fight, flight, or fawn mode, I think they're calling it now. But when it comes down to it, and what we choose, what we intend to do, and how we generally behave, that is all about us and our own personal issues and what's going on. You can even get to a place where things like, under the right circumstances, right? You can get to a place where things like your fight, flight, and fawn responses don't even take over you in that way, or where you learn to get out of the place if you have that option before it takes over you. That's why a lot of us as autists are famous for going to the bathroom. Like, as far as running off and finding a restroom to go to. It's a place where we can be alone. It's one of the few places in life, in an holistically built reality, where you can leave a situation and be actually alone in private and not be bothered non-stop about it. And most people, for their own personal reasons, either have the dignity or just, I don't know, the self-preservation to avoid asking why you were in the restroom for so long. Some people will do that, but I think most people, maybe they know better than to ask that question, because there could be myriad answers and they could be humiliating to the person they're asking, and it could be humiliating or upsetting to them to hear the answer. So most people, they just kind of leave us alone about the restroom, and that's why we keep going to find the restroom. It's our only safe haven. I listen to a lot of people who give off a lot of autistic traits, and they're very often talking about running out of energy, doing something like a 9-to-5 style job, and they are very often talking about how intense life is, and they're just giving off a lot of factors that really clue in. I don't want to go into an infinite list because I'll get lost talking about it, and I can feel myself getting lost right now and losing my original point. But then I listen to them and I'm like, that's interesting. That's interesting. That sounds familiar. Oh, I can relate. Oh yeah, a lot of us are like that. Oh, that sounds really neurodivergent. And then after all this stuff comes out, they'll say something like, I listened to one person who was saying that they did a job and it got so bad. They were spending all of their time, it's like you used to run off to the restroom to have a moment, but it got to a point where you used to have to run off to the restroom all of the time, every day, just to get some peace. I'm like, oh man, there's something about that. So many of us do this, that anytime I hear somebody say, I run to the restroom so I can get some peace and privacy, especially on a regular basis with something chaotic like a job that's not, perfectly compatible with them, or if they're highly social and they go out all the time, like, okay, yeah, but I'm running off to the restroom now, or I'm going out the back so that I can have a moment of peace, like, I was gonna say, yeah, well, yeah, like taking a smoke break, except a lot of these people are not smokers. They're like, I didn't go out to do that. I'm just going out there in that style so I can have a few minutes to myself. I could swear I heard somebody at some point in my life say that, I don't know who it was, I heard someone in passing over the course of my life saying that they do not smoke, but they carry cigarettes. And they would tell people, oh, I gotta go for a few minutes. And people would be asking questions, where are you going? Where are you going? And no answer they gave was sufficient. It was not like, oh, I just need a few minutes. People would be like, what, you need a few minutes? It was always just challenging it. But the minute they started to say, oh, I'm just gonna go grab a smoke, people were like, okay, go have a few minutes. And then it was fine. So they just acted like they smoked because it gave them permission to go outside and be gone for a few minutes. I don't know how that would work in real life, because as someone who notices someone who smells like that and someone who does not, I don't know how you'd fake it unless you actually light that thing and just let the smell seep into you. I know that doesn't bother everybody, but I remember hearing this decades ago and I thought, honestly, in that moment I was like, that's kind of smart. You came up with something everyone will accept, and now you're allowed to go away and have a quiet, peaceful moment and no one's gonna follow you. Except I do think I heard somebody say the only problem is sometimes somebody else smokes and they're like, I'll come with you. It must have been this one person, because I know I haven't heard this 50 times in my life. I remember hearing it one time, someone pretending that they smoke. And we do things like that, trying to get a moment away. And I don't remember how I even launched into this, but I hope it's going to all wind up. I don't know. I'll see when I'm editing. I might end up cutting everything, or else I leave it. And then this will just be another weird moment in the video. Perhaps I'm nearly done. My main point is, for those of us who are convinced that it's our problem that we cannot communicate, I do want to always remind us all, this is not us failing to communicate. And there have been, at least there's a very well-known study that was done where they actually managed to bother to see how autists communicate with other autists. And surprise, surprise, they found that we communicate better with each other than we do with people who are not autistic. And that we enjoyed that communication. God, somebody just walked up yelling so loudly, I don't even know where that interrupted me. Let me just start over and over. The study that fritzed my brain so hard, I'm not even going to try to pretend it didn't. The study showing how we communicate. That's a thing that's out there. And I mention it because I know a lot of us haven't had situations where we are neurocompatible and generally personality compatible. Because it's not just about knowing another autist or another ADHDer or another ADHDer. It's about, just like it is for neurotypicals, it's also about having basic human compatibility. Like, if you are not a smoker and you're highly sensitive to that smell and all of that, and you're choking and hacking and stuff, it'd be a little harder for you to be highly compatible with someone who is a smoker and they always smell of it and they're always clouded with it and it's in their hair and they move around and it fills the room, right? That's like a basic physiological compatibility where it's just about what your body can tolerate versus what someone else's can tolerate. But then there's a personality thing that's harder to describe, so I went for the basic physical thing. Because you would need to find somebody where you have enough compatibility as a human in either your interest or at least how you communicate. That's a big thing. As autists, we communicate similarly because our brains just work that way. So it's not just about meeting another autist. It's not like if you try to make friends with one person who's autistic or your immediate family seems clearly autistic, whether they can admit that to themselves or not. You need somebody you have compatibility with. It's the number one thing. And I was going to say human interaction, but even animal interaction. Try having a pet that likes to, for instance, wet you all of the time, and you have sensory issues and dislike ick. That might not be the pet for you. Maybe you are a momentary home to help move that pet to a forever home so you can have a clean place to live. Maybe you like to decorate in all white and it's not compatible with, for your sensory needs, and that pet is not compatible with that. It's any type of animal communication style. We need to have some type of compatibility. And so we need to, as neurodivergents, hopefully somehow find a way to interact with other people who are also neurodivergent. This can be online. I'm not asking you to get out there, get dressed up, put on your coolest outfit, go to the club, and no matter what, just be yourself, and then people will just flock to you. You catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. No, I'm talking to neurodivergents, and I'm talking to autists as an autist. You can go to an online forum that's safe and filled with autists. You can see, just take a look or take a listen, whatever's going on with your devices and your, again, trying to be inclusive and can't possibly think of everything right now, especially I'm still fritzed because of the loudness a moment ago, the interruption. But we can go out there and somehow experience something that's not just what we already have around us. I have met some of the more compatible and beloved human beings I have met in my life, literally online. Often when I was not trying to meet anyone, I was just living my life, typing things and reading things. And before you know it, Christ brings me surprise people. It's, I know that sounds rather intense, but I'm kind of picturing it like, for those of us who love animals, I always loved rodentous pets, I call them. I had hamsters, and I adore hamsters. And the thing about hamsters is they run around and they are animals. So sometimes they leave what some people call little presents. This means that they have relieved themselves, and you can find little presents where they've left little objects in their trail from relieving themselves as they go. So I'm just like, oh, Christ is just running around like a gigantic spiritual hamster dropping me little presents everywhere. But I have these thoughts and then I don't say them because I'm like, that's going to sound insane. How am I going to explain that I'm comparing the essence of the one true living God to a rodent with a jiggling butt? And all of my most favorite people that I've met in my life are now just little wads of hamster gifts being left all over my life. But I don't know, that's my humor. I think that's hilarious. I don't even think it's an insult. I just think it's funny. We need some kind of communication with people who get kind of how we communicate to understand. And if you get that by watching a YouTube video, then that's why I'm here, in the hopes that we'll find this information. People who maybe haven't noticed what I've noticed yet, or we can interact even in the comments section if you have something to add, or you just feel like saying something. But I know I spent a lot of my time listening to people and reading people who were #actually autistic, and it made the hugest difference in my life. And I went from a place of kind of accepting a lot of self-hate in my own actions and accepting a lot of hate from everyone else to a place where I now never accept that. That's beneath me. It doesn't even exist. I only accept self-love And it's just become natural now. And I only accept love from other people. And I look at things differently because I don't consider myself to be the problem. I know I don't have a communication disorder. I know I'm communicating in a fashion that's not yet considered to be what it is, which is a neurolanguage all its own, a neuroculture all its own. And so you have culture clash, or whatever they call it, culture shock. That's what's going on. It's a neuroculture shock that's very often throwing us off in between parties. And it's a neurological, like that, even go back to that video. That is one of the the last straws that inspired me to make this one. What's going on when this person is saying, oh, I changed the plans and you've just got a few minutes to get on board with it. They don't realize that what they are saying in their neuroculture, that's a non-issue. But the person hearing it, the autist, in our neuroculture, that can be a huge issue. And I know it can vary. I'm autistic and ADHD. Sometimes I'm accustomed to a plan and it's been built up for a long time, and then the plan changes and I'm cool with that change, because sometimes the plan was something I didn't want to do anyway. And if it was stressful and the new plan is something that's inherently less stressful for me, I react differently to that. I'm much happier with it. Very often plans are just canceled. And I'm like, and people are like, oh, well, I guess we can't do it. And maybe they're disappointed, but inside I'm dancing a jig of glee. I'm singing Disney tunes from Chip and Dale and what's that thing I used to watch? Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers and DuckTales and Scrooge McDuck, or whatever that program was actually called, where we all remember Scrooge McDuck, or Darkwing Duck. I've got music from the heyday of my innocence playing through my head, and I'm doing a little dance, and I'm going to the bathroom so I can get my little jig out and celebrate, because the plans were canceled and I didn't like the plans. They were too stressful, and now everybody else is like, oh, I don't want to celebrate in their face, because I've learned that that's not considered to be polite, but I will celebrate hard in my own moments all by myself. And sometimes I don't want to wait until I have my own moment in my own sanctum, or my own sanctuary, or just my own little hamster hidey hole. Sometimes I need to run off within seconds and smile it out and do a silent dance. And I'm locked in the restroom this time, not so that I can decompress and find a way to tolerate more energy, but so that I can just explode into happiness.